Yeah, what's up? Okay, so here we go. The Camaro, 5th generation Camaro, 2015, silver. Seems like deja vu because I've already driven one of these things before, and yeah, it's kind of like a, I wouldn't like to say a reunion because I didn't really spend a lot of time with that other Camaro that I drove back in Phoenix 2 years ago. I put about 200 miles on that car, and I felt like I got to know it pretty well. It was a convertible though, and I didn't really care for it. So this is a little bit better because it's a coupe. I like coupes a lot better. I am not a convertible guy, but this car looks pretty good. I mean, I like the shapes and the forms here, and there's just a lot of things to like about this car on the exterior, which is really, really, I guess the best way to call it is really hard-edged. I mean, it's got a lot of creases and shapes and folds here, which I really like, which doesn't really transition well into the interior, but from the outside it looks really good. And I think there's a lot of nice transitions here as the car goes around from the side to the rear there, and it looks nice as it goes around. These taillights are a little bit, this generation is, I don't know, that seems like it seems like when they first designed the car and it's released and it looks good that way, and then a couple years later they redesign it, and it's like they're just trying to make changes just for the sake of making changes, and that's what these headlights seem like to me. It just looks like there was no point. I like the previous generation better with the 4 squares, but this doesn't look so bad. This car's been driven hard though. It's only got 7,000 miles on it, and you can tell, look how burnt these exhaust tips are. I mean, that's just like, this car's been beat, I'm sure, but it seems like it's in pretty good shape. At least they could have washed it for me. I mean, these wheels, I mean, that's ridiculous. Look how dusty and crappy those are. I mean, they said they washed this car just yesterday, but it looks nasty. Brake dust on wheels is something that really ticks me off. Don't really like that a lot. Anyway, I like the way this 5th gen looks, and I think the 6th generation that was just announced a couple months ago looks a whole lot better. It looks like a complete evolution of this car, which I think is great because there's a lot of things about this car that just don't really seem all that right. Maybe this yeah, I don't even know what to say about this grill. It's just, I don't like the way this thickness comes here and then it comes to a point and then it goes thick again. I don't think that looks very good, but the new car looks a whole lot better than this. And then you come up over the hood here, and it looks low and wide, which is very cool. That's one of the nice things about the Camaro. We got that nice SS badge there, which is really, really nice. There's a big bug splattered right in the middle of that, just for visuals. So yeah, not a bad looking car. Okay, so you've heard me talk a little bit about this interior as I was driving away from the airport, and how much that I really don't like it that much. It's just it's better than the previous generations, but it just doesn't really work for me. I'm not going to go into a full review here. I mean, there's been a million other reviews of this car. You've probably heard enough. You know what this car's like. But there is one thing that I want to talk about, and that is the design discrepancy between the exterior and the interior of this car. None of it flows together, and let me show you what that means. So if we look at the passenger side here, that door panel, and then, you know, it looks good. There's some nice forms and shapes there, and then as you come around here to the dashboard, that looks pretty good. Looking good as you come around here, not bad. You know, there's some of these shapes and forms are just, they're not pretty. Let's just say they're not pretty. It's just bulbous and very, very Pontiac-like. But I'll refrain from saying anything more. I mean, they're not. That's not really not even really what I want to get into. So So as you get into the dashboard here, it looks okay. You got these little pods here for the gauges, and I don't think it looks all that great, but I get where they're coming from. I mean, it's a throwback to the previous generations, at least to the second gen. So I get that. I like that little bit of nostalgia there. So the steering wheel here is nothing to write home about. I mean, you've got all the controls here, all the cruise control and voice controls and volume for the radio and stereo, which looks okay. I mean, it's just not very sporty. I mean, you do have the SS badge here, but I mean, it's just really nothing great. And the paddle shifters, of course, on the sides. So I'll continue here. As you come off the dashboard into the driver's side door panel, you get the driver's side mirror, which, guess what? That's hard-edged and angled. But none of the interior is. None of the interior is. This is all rounded and bulbous, and it just doesn't match. It's just a huge discrepancy there, and it bugs me. It totally bugs me. And I understand. I mean, you don't really want to sit in a car with... I mean, you don't want to be surrounded by hard edges and, just things that actually hurt if you bump into, so I get where they're coming from. But you don't want to have that much of a discrepancy. I mean, it's like two completely different cars. So if you see the car from the outside, you walk up into it, and you think, oh, wow, this is a really hard-edged car. I mean, you almost expect that as you go into it. And then you climb in, you sit down, and it's a completely different experience. And it bugs me. It totally bugs me. But I'll just leave it at that. Okay, so there's actually one more thing that bugs me about this car, and that is the center console here and these gauges. Now, the gauges in themselves, I like gauges in the car. I like the car telling me what it's doing. That's great. But this was a complete afterthought, and it's obvious simply because you can't even see them. I mean, I'm sitting here. If I sit normally in the car like this as I'm driving, I look down, I cannot even see the oil pressure gauge because it's blocked by by the fan knob. And oil temperature is okay, that's fine. Volt is a little bit blocked by the lower portion of the nav display. And then the trans temperature I can't even see, though granted the shift lever is in park, and it's not really that big of a deal because once the car is in gear, it's totally unobstructed and you can see it. So total afterthought, and I hope the new car is not like that. I know that those gauges are down low like that, and I've seen pictures and it looks better, so we'll see. So going into the passenger side here and the seats look good. As I was saying before, there's very little lumbar support, which I think it's just I'm a small guy, and so I give cars a little bit of leeway when it comes to that sort of thing. So I know that not everybody is the same size, but it'd be nice if there was some adjustability, but there's none. And I can move all the way across side by side, and it doesn't really do anything. So, but the seats, they look good. And then coming into the back seat here, typical pony car, real tight. You wouldn't want to sit there very long if you're small. So, and then I don't know if this camera's going to pick it up, but I got a nice sunroof here. Close that off, and I believe it is, you can't control that. I was trying to find a way to open it, but I'm sure it opens somehow. I can see a hinge in there, but I'm not sure exactly how that works. All right, the navigation system here. Let's see if we can dig into this and see how this works. Now, it's always a good test of a navigation system if you can just go into it fresh, having no idea how it works, and to see if everything is intuitive and if it all flows together really good, which is important because you don't want to be fumbling with this stuff as you're driving down the road. So let's go into... Anyway, yeah, I'm not a fan of this thing. I have no desire to sit here and figure it out. I've got some driving to do. I want to check this car out, so there you go.